Who's making this noise? This guy should keep their voices down. Please. Good evening and welcome to the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. I want to say welcome to Nigeria. Yes, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, the city where I was born. Owerri, Makurdi, Umahia, you're welcome. Those in Canada, I had somebody write me today say, I tune in to your show every Friday from Canada. I want to welcome you to the show. From the US, you're welcome. In California, where I lived for 22 years, if you're listening from Los Angeles, I want to welcome you to the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. My name is Chike Onyia. I am your host tonight, and I'm so happy to be here. If you're listening from Monrovia in Liberia, I've been there. Dakar, Senegal, I've been there. Cote d'Ivoire, I've been there. Accra, Ghana, I've been there. I want to say welcome to the show. Yaoundé, Cameroon, Limbe, Cameroon, Douala, I've been there. Welcome to the show tonight. It's a pleasure to have you. And let me tell you, on this show, our goal is simple. The goal is simple. I want you to hear me. We change one life and one family at a time. If I can do that tonight, one life, one family at a time. That's the theme of our show. That's the goal of our show. That's the purpose for this show every Friday at 7 p.m. If you're tuning in, whichever platform, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, where is it X now? Yes, I want to welcome you to the show. Tonight on the show, we're going to be talking about bad bosses. And let me jump right into it. One day, a young man, and I told the story, about this young man on my video. The young man made a mistake at work. So I'm going to give you two scenarios that we're going to use tonight. The young man made a mistake at work, and the boss looked at him and said, "You're a bastard." He called him a bastard. He says, "You're a bastard." The young man was downtrodden, was deflated, he was in shock. He couldn't believe that because he had made a mistake. And guess what? That mistake was the first mistake he had made as an employee in that organization, right? Let me tell you another story. I think I was traveling Africa somewhere, and I went to give a talk somewhere in Africa, one of these African nations, I believe. And the team that I was speaking to, they said to me that our line boss, our boss, boarded a plane to fly from one city to another city. And when we got word that he was on board flying, we all got on our knees to say a prayer. And the prayer had a singular purpose. Let the plane crash. They wanted this boss dead. They wanted the boss dead. Why? Because the boss was very abusive. He would insult them. He would shout on them. He would speak in a condescending way. He had no respect. It was the kind of boss that would look at you and say things like, "You're an idiot. You're stupid. You're dumb. You're dunce." Just all kinds of things that the boss would say to berate this young people. And they had enough. And so when he boarded the flight, listen to me, they prayed that prayer. All of them got on their knees and started to fire prayer. In Africa we can pray. They started to pray, "Let the plane crash." They wanted that plane down. Can you imagine that kind of prayer? It was one of the ladies on the team that after a while, I guess the Spirit of God must have come upon her. And the lady says, "Hold on. If God answers this prayer, then not only will our boss die, listen, everybody on board will die." And at that point, ladies and gentlemen, they retracted the prayer. They revoked the prayer, right? And they said, "You know what? Nah, we don't want to do this." But they despised the boss. They hated the boss. And they didn't want anything to do with that boss. On the show tonight, I'm talking about bad bosses. That's what I want to talk about. Now, let's get started. Right? I mean, we started already. If you're just joining us, my name is Chike Onyia. I'm so excited. I'm so fired up to be here today because I know there's a boss listening out there. There's a leader out there. There's a manager in some corporate organization. And by the way, we're giving out something free tonight. For the HR manager that calls in at the end of the show to answer my question, I, Chike Onyia, the emotional intelligence practitioner, the resilience practitioner, I will come out and give a free talk to that organization. A full day, a free talk to that organization, right? But you must hang in with me and listen all the way to the end and call in. You must call in. You can't answer on YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram. You can't write your answer. To qualify, the HR manager must call in to win this. And if the company is in Lagos, I will come out physically to do the training. If the company is in London, is in Amsterdam, is in Cote d'Ivoire, it doesn't matter. We can get on Zoom or Teams and do the training, right? So let's get back to work. Now, my good friend, my business partner, Dr. Maxwell Oba, he wrote a book on leadership. And Dr. Maxwell is a great leadership expert. It's a great leadership expert. The book he wrote, The Alphabet of Leadership. In that book, Dr. Maxwell defines leadership using 4 P's. He defines leadership using 4 P's. And he says, P1, listen, follow me very carefully. P1 stands for the person of the leader. P2 is the process that the leader uses to lead. P3 is the people that the leader is leading. And P4 is performance. So leadership, there's no definition in the world of leadership that will not have these 4 P's. The person of the leader uses a process of influence, inspiration, motivation to lead a group of people to the land of performance. That's leadership. But at the core of leadership, at the foundation of leadership, is the person of the leader. So if the leader is a bad leader, a bad boss, then that process is going to have some issues. That process is going to have some issues. So that's leadership in a nutshell. Now, let's talk about something else. We're going to connect the dots. Let's talk about culture, organizational culture. And I need you to follow me very carefully on the show tonight. Follow me very carefully. So the leader, we got that already. The person of the leader is so important. But what is organizational culture? What is culture? When we say company culture, what do we mean? Well, let me give you a very simple analogy to help you understand it, to make it lucid and very simple. Think about a brand new Range Rover 2024, a brand new Range Rover. And let's say that brand new Range Rover, I love that vehicle, the brand new Range Rover represents the company's vision, mission, and strategy. Now, let's say you put that brand new Range Rover on a terrible road, on a road that is messed up. I want you to think about that road as the culture of the organization. So the brand new Range Rover, that Range Rover, I'm sure it's about 250 million naira or 300 million naira now. It's a very expensive vehicle, right? Very expensive. So you put it, and it represents the vision, the mission. Vision is where the company wants to be. Mission is why they exist today on their way to their vision. Their strategy is what differentiates them in the marketplace and adds value to their customers. That value they don't get anywhere else. So the strategy differentiates them in the marketplace, gives them the competitive edge, and differentiates their products and services. So we have the Range Rover, the vision, mission, strategy. Then we have the bad road that represents the culture. Think about putting that Range Rover on that bad road day in, day out. Think about putting your vision, mission, strategy that gives you a competitive edge in the market, in a very competitive market, and gives you differentiation. Strategy is about differentiation, right? But put that Range Rover, put vision, mission, strategy on that bad road. And after a while, those of you that know about vehicles, the shock absorbers, the vehicle, this brand new vehicle will start to break down. What is culture? The culture represents the road. Very simply put, culture is the way people, listen, think, act, and speak in the organization. The culture, a way of life, is the way people think, their attitudes, right? The way they speak to each other, and the way they act, their behaviors. Now, in great organizations, follow me carefully, in great organizations, listen, the culture is usually founded, grounded on a set of core values. A set of core values. So you see organizations that have great core values. They have values like integrity, respect for the individual, right? Excellence, execution, things like that. Entrepreneurship. So every organization should have its own core values. And the culture is embedded. The culture is grounded, founded into those core values. Essentially, everybody in the organization has to behave accordingly in terms of those core values. Now let's bring it back to the bad boss. When you have a boss that shouts and screams and insults people in the organization, it means that something is happening in that organization. One of two things. It means, number one, the company has a bad culture, a culture where people shout and scream, and maybe in that culture, it's all about results. There's no empathy. Nobody cares about how you feel, right? They drive you for results. They're like slave drivers, right? They just drive you. I've seen these organizations. I've done this for many, many years, and I've been around, right? I've seen this where they're driving, the leaders are driving. Nothing wrong with that. People should drive people for results. After all, why are you in business? You need to execute. You need to deliver. Nothing wrong with that. But when you don't balance that with the human faith, when you don't balance that with empathy, caring for others, and you end up shouting and screaming, after a while, engagement levels in that organization. What do I mean by engagement levels? You know, when employees come into organizations, brand new, they come in with their head, their intellect, their competence. That's H1, their head. They come in with their hearts, H2, for passion for the job. They come in with their hands, H3, for dexterity and work and skill. This concept of engagement I learned from Dr. Maxwell Uba in his book, The Alphabet of Leadership. Great book. I recommend that book, The Alphabet of Leadership by Dr. Maxwell Uba. He's my partner, business partner, great guy, leadership expert, right? And he says engagement equals H1, H2 plus H3. The head for the intellect. The heart for passion for work. The hands for dexterity and skill. And that's engagement. So when employees come in new into an organization, they are the highest engagement level. And Dr. Maxwell says there are 5 engagement levels. At the highest level is commitment, where the employee brings all their effort. They go the extra mile. They take initiative. They're innovative. They come with discretionary effort. They go beyond the boundary to do the things that they ought to do without anybody telling them. That's the commitment level. The next level is compliance. So you go from commitment to compliance. From compliance, you go to indifference, or what we call apathy. or you drop down to resentment, and then finally sabotage. Now let's go back to my example. When that bad boss called the young man a bastard, you know, the young man was brand new. It was barely 2 months in that organization. It was his first mistake. You know, he had come in at the commitment level. He was ready to go the extra mile, to innovate, take initiative. But the moment he was called a bastard, his engagement levels moved from commitment straight down to resentment. He started to resent the boss. He disengaged from work. Physically, he will come to work, but he will not go the extra mile. He hated that boss and vicariously hated that company. Now, remember what I said. It's one of two things. That company has a bad culture, which drives for results, and that's it. Those kind of companies, short term, they will get the results. Medium to long term, the results will start dwindling. If you're not careful long term, with these days of social media, there are two people that can destroy your career as a bad boss. Listen to me very carefully. Stop shouting in the workplace. Stop insulting people in the workplace. Don't disrespect people in the workplace. No matter how angry you are, you should learn emotional intelligence. Stop it. Real leaders don't shout. There's no need to shout. Real leaders don't insult people. They don't. It's not necessary. You can get people to deliver without shouting and screaming. It's wrong. Nobody wants to be shouted on. The other day, in a session I was doing on emotional intelligence for, I think it was senior managers, I asked them, raise your hand if there's anybody in this room that doesn't mind being shouted upon. And nobody raised their hand. I asked the class governor to look around, and there was no one in there, both women and men, that says, listen, I don't mind being shouted upon or shouted at. Nobody likes to be shouted at. Now, in a moment, we're going to take a break. If you're just joining me, I want to welcome you to the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. In 2 or 3 minutes, we'll go on break. We'll be back in a second. But let me tell you, listen to me carefully. So there are two types of organizations. There's the politically driven organization where the culture is messed up. There's psychophancy. There's butt kissing. Right? There's mediocrity. People shout and scream and all that. But there's the performance driven organization that is grounded on a culture of discipline and a culture of excellence. In that kind of organization, leaders don't shout. Leaders don't shout. Before people are put into leadership roles, they go for training. They join, they do, cross-functional work. So let's say you're a HR person and they want to promote you to manager. You will go to finance and work for 1 week. You will go to IT, go to procurement, right? You go to operations, and then finally you would go for a 1 week leadership course where you're taught how to lead teams, right? That is a culture that works. And then there's a performance appraisal system that appraises every leader and manager once a year, pretty much. There's a 360 that is run, and feedback is given from the younger ones, from the peers and their superiors, to determine how each leader, to me, stupid. There was a manager that called a woman stupid because she did something wrong. She said to the woman, you're stupid. You're a stupid woman. You know what that woman did? She went home and told her husband she was going to resign. Said, I can't take it anymore. The next day she came in and dropped her resignation letter simply because she was called stupid. And in this day and age and era of Jackpa, you need to manage your talent very, very well. You can't lose good talent in the workplace, okay? All right, we got to go to a break. I know I've been talking a lot. When we come back, I'm going to open up the phone lines and I'm going to put out a question out there. I want you to engage. This is the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. We're broadcasting here from Lagos, Nigeria. I want to welcome Canada, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, the US, anywhere you're tuning in from. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. I don't want you to go anywhere. Stay with me. Welcome back and a warm good evening wherever you may be, or good afternoon depending on where you're, or good morning depending on where you're tuning in from. If you're in Los Angeles, California, it's probably 11 a.m. or 12 there, you know. You're welcome to the show. My name is Chike Onyia. This is the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. And it's always a pleasure to have you with me. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about this. I love the show because we get to do one thing on this show. We help change one life or one family at a time. If there's a leader out there that I can touch tonight, if there's a father, a mother who is a leader in the home that I can touch tonight, if there's a pastor, right? If there's somebody, a CEO that I can touch tonight and help in their leadership role, then I've done my job by the grace of God, right? I've done my job, right? So, listen, I'm going to put out a question out there. Today we're talking about bad bosses, if you just joined us. And I like to put out a question. And the question is very simple. At the end of the show, I will give my own thoughts. But let's put out this call. Let's put out this question out there. The numbers to call, 091 6000, right? 6000 2661 or 091 6000 2662. Those are the phone lines, 091 6000 2661 or 091 6000 2662. You can also leave us a message on our WhatsApp line, 091 6000 2663. We have an email address, Chike Onyia Speaks Show at gmail.com. Chike Onyia Speaks Show at gmail.com. Here comes the question. We're going to open up the phone lines. You can also leave your messages on LinkedIn. We're going to be reading out messages tonight, or yes, the comments rather, on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, right? So the question I want to ask you out there, the HR managers listening, HR directors, employees, staff, leaders, it doesn't matter who you are. Tell me what you think is the impact of having a bad boss on you and the organization. What is the impact of bad bosses on the organization? We want to talk about that. You have a boss that shouts, a boss that doesn't coach, you know, a boss that doesn't support you, doesn't demonstrate empathy. Now, by the way, there are great bosses out there. We need to celebrate those great bosses. Kudos to the great bosses out there who are fantastic. There are many of them. Not every boss is a bad boss. I've met people who've told me, my boss is great. I used to have a great boss when I worked as a young lawyer in California, right? And I worked under that boss for 7 years. So, and that boss was a great boss. So there are many great bosses out there. But the question tonight is, what impact does a bad boss have on the organization, on organizational results, on the work climate, whatever you want to talk about tonight? 091 6000 2661 or 091. Hello, good evening. Hello. All right. I thought the first caller, you know, when you call in, do me a favor. Tell us your name and where you're calling in from, right? Tell us your name and where you're calling in from. And we always like to give people about 30 seconds. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening. Can you please speak up? What is your name and where are you calling from?
Okay. I'm Chinyere calling from Owerri.
Chinyere?
Chinyere calling from Owerri.
Okay. Chinyere. From Owerri.
Sir.
Okay, go ahead,
Yes.
Chinyere.
The impact, a bad boss cannot give you a positive impact, rather a negative impact. Like I've been in a situation whereby there was a place I was working, the boss was very harsh, and you know, so the word that comes out from the mouth of that my boss is something that you can go and you know, commit suicide or something. It leads to depression. Wow. That's the negative impact it
wow.
gives. It doesn't
wow.
give a positive impact, because there are some certain things the person will say that will make you depressed, seriously.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Chinyere from Chinyere. I'm sorry. Chinyere.
Yes, sir.
From Owerri. Thank you. You said, wow, can make you suicidal. Can make the person depressed. That's what Chinyere from Owerri said. My gosh. You know, my gosh. There was a story told about a male boss who asked a young lady, I think the lady was in her 20s, late 20s, and said, you know, how old are you? And the lady said maybe 28. And the boss says, and you're not married. Something is wrong with you. You're not married. Something is wrong with you. You know, why would you say that to a female? Why would you? What is your business about whether she's married or not? Why would you make a statement like that? A 28-year-old young lady in the workplace, and the boss says, look at you, how old are you? She says, I'm 28. She says, are you married? She said, no. He says, look at you, you're not even married. Your head is not correct. Why would you say that? What does that have to do with the young lady's performance in the workplace? What does that have to do? Right? 091 6000 2661 091 6000 2662 are the numbers to call. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, please, can you turn down your device? Turn the device you're listening on, turn it down. Okay, let me help you. Please, when you call in, you probably have two gadgets. You have your laptop, you're listening to the show. You have your phone. When you call in, that device you're listening into the show with, reduce the volume, put it on mute so that I can hear you. If not, you know, it's going to affect the sound here. Hello, good evening. Hello. All right, 091 6000 2661 091 6000 2662. Do we have any comments? Are you following on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn? If we have comments, we can read those comments, right? Okay. So let's hello, good evening. Hello? Are you there? All right. Let me keep going here. I want you to follow me very carefully. So let's talk about the impact that bad bosses have on organizational culture and ultimately the results. And when we talk about the bad boss, let's even talk about that for a minute before I go into the impact of, you know, okay, we have a call. Hello, good evening. Hello?
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. What is your name? Where are you calling from? Hello?
I'm calling from Ohafia in Abia State. My name is Favorite Peter.
Your name is Deborah. Oh, Favorite.
Favorite Peter Carlo.
Okay, Favorite Peter Carlo from Abia State, eh?
Ohafia in Abia State.
Ohafia.
Yes, sir.
You're welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
My opinion to this very topic: a bad boss cannot give any good thing to the organization or to the investment or to the company that he or she is managing. Rather, he will disorganize the organization.
Okay.
And the workers there will be distressed.
I see. I get it.
And they will lose so many customers.
They will
lose so many things because of his or her bad character.
Oh, wow.
So there is not any good or positive change that the bad boss will bring to the organization or company.
Understood. Thank you so much. Thank you, Favorite Peter Carlo from Ohafia in Abia State. And you know, both men and women can be bad bosses, just like men and women can be good bosses. A young man told a story about how a woman used to work them long hours and would not pay salaries on time. And, you know, she and her family were leading ostentatious lives, spending money left, right, and center, right? But when it comes to month end, their salaries are not paid. Meanwhile, she's demanding for them to work and they'll be owed salary for months, right? That's not good. That's not good. And you're living this lifestyle and your staff can see you in the big cars, you know, your children going to big schools, you're going on family vacation and all that. You're spending all this money. They can see what you're doing, the things you're buying. And at the end of the month, you claim that there's no money to pay. And meanwhile, there's money. But you want to use that money for something else. It would be different if the company had no money. But of course, you know, staff talk. There are people in the finance department. So they talk to each other. right? So both men and women can be bad bosses running organizations, right? Now, I wanted us to be very clear. Let's talk about this bad boss. And again, we're celebrating good bosses here. There are great bosses all over the world. We want to celebrate you tonight. But specifically tonight, we're talking about bad bosses. And we want to help somebody out there to change their leadership, change in their leadership journey. Now, really, when it comes to leadership, nobody's born a leader. You know, the concept of the great man theory, where people are born leaders, like Alexander the Great, Mother Teresa, and all that. Nobody's born a leader, right? So that theory, the great man theory, is really no longer there. Then there was the trait theory that says that some people are born with certain traits that make them better leaders. Well, that may be true, but that theory is also kind of obsolete. The theory today with leadership is that leadership can be learned. Leadership is a skill. Leadership is behavioral. So we see you in leadership when you speak, when you act, when you manifest your attitude one way or the other. It tells us whether you're a leader or not. Yeah, we have somebody here online. Elizabeth says, good evening, sir. God bless you for the great job you're doing. So for me, a bad boss will make me demoralized. I won't be able to put in my best at work because I will always be scared of his or her actions. The work environment will be so toxic, thereby limiting me in so many ways. This will also affect the company because I won't be able to put in my best, which will make them lose income directly or indirectly. Personally, I hate a toxic environment. I can't give my best in that kind of situation. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. So let's go back to what I was talking about. Now, leadership can be learned, which means that great companies, like I said earlier, before they promote their staff into leadership roles. So from a non-leader, non-supervisor to a leader or supervisory role, you need to go for training. You need to go and learn leadership. I'm a lawyer. I've been licensed in the state of California for many, many years, for decades, right? I had to go to law school in the US and get a Juris Doctor degree in law. I'm also a barrister here. I had to go to the Nigerian law school. So you don't become a lawyer without being trained. It's the same thing in leadership. You can't assume a leadership role without training. Now, the other thing that is critical in leadership to understand is that people's temperaments and personality types affect their leadership styles and the way they manifest. So in the book written by Tim LaHaye, he talks about the different temperaments. There's the choleric, right? There's the melancholy, there's the sanguine, and then there's the phlegmatic. The choleric is results driven and can be domineering, right? The melancholy is the perfectionist, inflexible, detailed oriented. The sanguine is very playful, jovial, overly friendly, and the phlegmatic is quiet. None of these temperaments are suited for leadership. Leadership is dynamic. Your temperament, generally, the majority school of thought says your temperament is fixed at birth. You can't use a fixed temperament to lead in a dynamic world that is always changing. You will fail. So that leader that shouted, "You're a bastard," may be a choleric. Cholerics can be very aggressive. They're very intelligent. They're results driven. They're confident. They demand excellence now. And sometimes they struggle with showing empathy. They struggle with empathy, you know. they want you to be like them. They want you to, to work like them. They want you to adopt their style and become a little crony, right? So your temperament may not be suited for leadership. What you need in leadership is emotional intelligence. That's what you need. You need emotional intelligence. Your technical skills, your IQ, they're taken for granted. That's why you got that position. Anyway, let's go back to the phone line. 091-6000-2661 or 091-6000-2662. Today we're going to give away a free one-day class on emotional intelligence. Let me throw out that question now. There may be HR managers listening. Let's get this show, rocking. Let's rock and roll. Can you tell me, as a HR manager or director, listen carefully. Every leader has three things going. Here's the question. So leaders have an IQ, an intelligence quotient, that intelligence quotient that measures their aptitude, right? It measures their aptitude, it measures their academic skills, and things like that, right? Then leaders have the technical skills, things that they do on the job that they know. So let's say you work for a company that produces consumer goods, and you're a manager there. Let's say you're in the supply chain, or you're in sales. You're going to have an IQ, which gives you that academic smarts, intelligence. You're going to have technical skills for supply chain or sales. But then you also need a bit of emotional intelligence if you're going to be a great leader. So my question to a HR manager today, what percentage, let's say IQ, technical skills, and EI or EQ give you 100, what percentage of that 100 would you say that emotional intelligence must take for the leader to be a great leader? Again, understand my question. Every leader has a level of IQ, intelligence quotient, measuring their academic intelligence, their aptitude, right? Their cognitive skills, the ability to comprehend and understand things, right? To analyze. That's the IQ, logic, cognition. They have their technical skills. So if you're in sales, your ability to sell the product, that's a technical skill, right? You must know how to sell, right? Or if you're in supply chain, or if you're in finance, you must have technical skills. If you're in IT, you must have technical skills. But as a good leader, to be a good boss, you need some level of emotional intelligence. So my question tonight, tell me what percentage out of 100, generally speaking, studies have been done on this, and there's an average out there. There's studies, many studies have been done. Tell me what percentage the leader must have in emotional intelligence to be a good boss. 091 6000 2661, 091 6000 2662. On the show tonight, if you're just joining us, we're talking about bad bosses and the impact. I've not talked about the impact yet. We're going to get there in a moment. What's the impact of a bad boss? We're going to be talking about that in a minute. 091 6000.
Hello.
Please, can you turn down your device?
Hello.
Yeah, you have a device there. We can hear the device. Can you put it on mute, please?
Yes, I've done that.
Excellent. What is your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Nelson. I'm calling from Mafoluku.
Mafoluku. Okay, go ahead, Nelson.
Okay. Bad temper in the office is kind of, how I call it now, it's something that the HR can't control most times.
Sorry, say that again.
I said bad temper is something that the HR can't control most times because you don't know who you're employing until they're already there.
Okay.
But once you employ them, you can control them. And you ask about the percentage, about the EQ and the IQ.
Yes. What is the answer?
Yes, 36%.
Which one is 36%?
The EQ.
Okay, EQ must be 36%, which means that you're leaving IQ and technical skills, you're giving it 64%, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Nelson. Thank you. I got your answer. Right? Please do us a favor, drop your name and your details on our WhatsApp 091 6000 2663. 091 6000 2663. Nelson, also send us an email at Chike Onyia Speaks Show at gmail.com. We're going to announce the answer at the answer and the winner at the end of the show. That winner, your company gets a full day from me, Chike Onyia, the EI practitioner. I'll come and deliver that. will come and deliver. So I've done emotional intelligence for many, many years, probably 15 to 20 years now. It's a topic that I love so much. It's changed my life, right? It's changed my life. Let's go here. All right, where are we here? We're on YouTube, and we have some people on YouTube. Good evening, sir. Where are we here? Armstrong said, good evening. Maureen and Ekwe, good evening, everyone. Okpara Chizoma, good evening to you. Armstrong, it can be demoralizing when you hear insulting words from your head of department, right? We absolutely agree with the ideas. Poor performance, okay? I get it. Armstrong says, I clearly experienced this in Port Harcourt, where the owner of the company was living a lavish lifestyle and refused to pay staff salaries. He also hired a lot of police officers to protect himself. Interesting. Thank you, Armstrong. Thank you so much. That was on YouTube. Thank you so much. Keep your comments coming. 091 6000 2661 or 091 6000 2662 are the phone lines. The question is, what percentage would you apportion to emotional intelligence in terms of what a leader needs to be successful in the workplace? Every leader has a level of IQ, has technical skills, but to be a good leader, you need a certain level of emotional intelligence. Out of 100, what's that percentage? Nelson said 36%. All right, 091 6000 2661 or 091 6000 2662. Now, let me tell you, what's the impact of having a bad boss? I want us to put it in 4 categories. I need you to follow me very carefully. If you're just joining us, you're welcome to the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. We're here broadcasting from Lagos, Nigeria. If you're just joining us, you're welcome. We are, talking today about bad bosses, right? And I want to tell you about the impact of bad bosses on organizational culture and ultimately results. I'm going to put it in 4 buckets. First bucket is disengagement at work. And I've talked about that already. When a boss shouts, screams, a boss is not a coach, doesn't teach, yells at people when they make mistakes. I tell people on my team, I'm an executive myself, and I tell people, I don't have a problem when people make a mistake the first time. There's no problem with that. We're human. You will make a mistake. Even me, till tomorrow, I still make mistakes as an executive, right? And I know when I started my young career as a lawyer, I made mistakes. Nothing wrong with a mistake the first time. I tell my people, the team that I work with, I don't have a problem with the mistake because you're human. Only God is perfect. What I need you to do with the first mistake is to learn from it and make sure it never happens again. If it happens again, then I may begin to question your competence. I may begin to question your engagement levels, right? But there's nothing wrong with a first-time mistake. Now, disengagement is what happens when you have a bad boss. I said it earlier. People come into organizations at the commitment level, right? If you're not careful, you talk to them rudely or disrespectfully, they move to compliance. There's a difference between commitment and compliance. Commitment, they go the extra mile. Compliance is 9 to 5. That's what is on their offer letter. If you call them after 5, they won't answer the phone. If you send an email on Friday, you won't get a response till Monday morning. That's compliance. From compliance, they go to what we call apathy or indifference. They don't care. It's not my father's company. It's not my mother's company. So they don't have this entrepreneurial spirit. They don't care whether you make money or not. In fact, they will be spending your money without thinking about whether they're making it or not because they don't care. It's not their company. From apathy or indifference, they drop down to resentment. And that's where that team, somewhere in Africa, when their boss boarded the plane, the bad boss boarded the plane, they got on their knees to pray. Let the plane crash. They wanted the line boss dead, right? They wanted the line boss dead. Good evening, sir. I think a leader needs to have at least 65% emotional intelligence. Not too soft, not too hard. That's from Halimat. Thank you so much from Halimat. I think she's tuning in from Kaduna. Yes, thank you, and thank you. All right, we appreciate that, right? So disengagement is the first problem you're going to have. Disengagement. And when people start disengaging, remember I told you engagement is about 3 H's. Dr. Maxwell Oba, in his book, The Alphabet of Leadership. H1, the head, for intellect. H2, the heart, for passion for the job. And H3, the hands, the fingers, for dexterity and skill. When any of the H's drop, the heart goes, they drop to compliance, they go down to sabotage. I've seen people sabotaging their own company. They're working for this company, but they're also working for the competitor. You're in a strategy meeting with them because they're disengaged. Right there in the strategy meeting, you're talking about your company's strategy for the year. They take a restroom break. They're calling the competitor and sharing information about your strategy to the competitor. They're sabotaging your company. And one reason, there are many reasons why employees may do that, but one reason why they will do that is because of bad leadership and the bad boss. So the first thing is disengagement. That's the first thing. It's disengagement, right? It's disengagement. I think we need to go to another break, right? Let's take another break. We're going to come back, and when we come back, we'll start wrapping up this show, right? This is the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. Stay with me. We'll be right back after this break. God bless you. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Back to the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. I'm always excited to be here with you. We have a free giveaway, a full day on emotional intelligence. We don't have a winner yet. The question I asked is, what percentage of emotional intelligence should we ascribe to good leadership, right? If the IQ, the technical skills, and the EQ or EI, if the three of them make up 100%, What's the percentage that needs to go to emotional intelligence for a boss to be a good boss? I was talking about, the pillars or the buckets, 4 buckets, the impact of bad bosses on organizational culture and results. And I said number 1 is disengagement. Listen to number 2, staff turnover, right? Issues with employee retention. People start dusting off their CVs and they leave the organization, right? Some may even stay there while they're interviewing and all that, but they're not bringing their best to the table. And the first opportunity they get, they will leave. Some have even left simply because, of the bad boss, and they leave not caring about whether or not the salary is less in the new job they're going. They take a pay cut and they leave. So employee retention becomes a challenge. And in these days, this era of jackpot, when people are living in droves, living in the country, talent management and talent retention has become a KPI, a key performance indicator for every boss and every supervisor out there. It doesn't matter what level you are, right? And number 3, look at this. What happens when you have a bad boss? Innovation goes through the door. Innovation. People will not bring their creativity and innovation. The World Economic Forum in 2023 listed the top 10 skills for the workplace between now and 2027. Number 1 is creativity. So with a bad boss, creativity and innovation through the door, right? So, and in this competitive business world where we live in today, where you have Me Too products, you're in the red ocean and competitors are attacking, trying to take your business away. If you're not creative and innovative, if your employees are not taking that creative stance, you're going to be losing business. And then finally, somebody said it earlier on the show, I believe it was Favorite. She says it will even affect your customer service. When employees are not happy at work, it affects their delivery when it comes to customers. They're moody, they're irritated, they're frustrated. They will not be as friendly to the customer because internally their culture is toxic. Their culture is bad, right? So as I begin to wrap up the show, what should organizations really do, to ensure that they deal with bad bosses, to ensure that they don't have these issues in the culture and that ultimately their results begin to dwindle? Well, the first thing you must do is be very careful who you promote into a leadership role. The fact that somebody is great as an individual contributor on their desk does not mean that they're going to make a good manager of people and resources, right? It takes skill. So even if you identify them as a high potential in the organization, you must send them for leadership training. Allow them to go into cross-functional roles. Like I said, if you're in finance and they want to promote you into a leadership role, like a finance manager, go to HR, spend 1 week. Go to IT, go to procurement, go to operations. Understand the business as a whole. So that as a manager, when you start interacting with the other departments, you understand the language that they're speaking. A good example is a HR manager who has been promoted doesn't really understand finance. I know CFOs and finance people get frustrated when they're talking to leaders who don't understand the numbers. Every manager should take a course on finance for non-finance managers. And that should be a model in that leadership program. I remember we used to run a 1-week leadership course, and we would have finance for non-finance managers, leadership, emotional intelligence, things like that. So it's very, very, very important that managers go for training. Very, very important. And then you need to have a performance appraisal mechanism that measures the impact of their managerial and leadership styles. You celebrate those managers who are doing well. Those who are struggling, you provide an intervention. They may need individualized coaching. You may need to bring in an executive coach or a coach to help them in those areas. We've done that before in organizations where they've called us in to do individualized coaching. We've even coached at the most senior level, at the CEO level, executive coaching, right? And then, of course, the 360 feedback that great companies run once a year. You must do that 360 to continue to ensure that the manager is receiving feedback from team members, the younger colleagues, the peers, the supervisor. The 360 feedback allows the manager to know where their strengths lie and where they're struggling. For those areas where they're struggling, the manager needs help. But hear me, at the end of the day, after the organization has deployed all these interventions and that manager refuses to change, generally speaking, is put on a performance improvement plan given 6 months. If you don't change, performance-driven organizations will take you out. All right, we have some Okpara Chizoma. The percentage of EI a leader must have to be a great boss is 80 to 90%. Okpara Chizoma, 80 to 90%. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? Okpara Chizoma is spot on. Studies show that the percentage in emotional intelligence in leadership is usually 85 to 90%. Studies show. In other words, emotional intelligence is the cornerstone of leadership. Why is that? Because when you get into a leadership role, your IQ is taken for granted. It is. You know it. Your technical skills are taken for granted. You know it. What we need is your emotional intelligence to motivate, to influence, to inspire the people on their way to the land of performance, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, so Okpara Chizoma is our winner. I don't know which company you work for. Please send us the 2 things, Okpara Chizoma, you must do. You've won tonight, right? Go to our WhatsApp 091 6000 2663, 091 6000 2663, and tell us about yourself and your company. We'll come out and do the training. If you're in Lagos, send us an email. So 2 things, WhatsApp and email, Chike Onyia speaks show at gmail.com. Chike Onyia speaks show at gmail.com. Give us all the details of your company. If you're outside Lagos, we can do a Zoom training, we can do a Teams training, no problem. Get us in contact with your team and we'll be very glad to help you out. I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight on the show, specifically Chinyere from Owerri joined us. I want to thank you. Favorite Peter Kalo from Ohafia in Abia State joined us. And of course, Nelson from Lagos also joined us and called into the show. We're very, very grateful. Thank you for taking the time. You didn't have to do that. You chose to hang out for 1 hour tonight. We really appreciate that and we love you for that, right? My name is Chike Onyia. I am your host on the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. Good night. We'll see you next Friday. God bless you.